Start out with the county exec's address.
Hello, everyone. Supervisors, cabinet staff, thank you for being here tonight. As we begin the process, I gotta read from my notes so I get everything covered that I want to get covered, okay? Otherwise, I just fire from the hip, which probably isn't a good thing. So anyhow, as we begin the process of crafting my 2026 budget, I want to emphasize that this is not just about numbers, it's about priorities, vision, and the kind of future we want to shape for Racine County. In that process, we must also ensure, and this is about the numbers, that the budget is fiscally responsible and sustainable for the long haul. That's why I've invited you here to hear from you directly, our county board supervisors, on what you see as most important in the year ahead, and for that matter, trends for the future years. We've had many conversations offline about those types of things. Over the past several weeks, I've been working closely with department heads to identify needs, pressures, and opportunities across the organization. Now it's time to bring your voices into that conversation as well. This session is your opportunity to share your priorities and help shape the foundation of my 2026 budget. We're here to listen. We're here to listen to what you guys think are important. There are a number of key efforts already in motion that will influence this year's budget. The early impact of our new county sales tax and how it will shape fiscal planning. We don't know what that impact is yet. We can guesstimate and we can project, but we don't know exactly what those actual numbers are going to be yet. Our salary study to ensure we're positioned competitively in a tight labor market. That'll be interesting to see, that labor study. Contract negotiations started this week with the sheriff's office. That'll be an interesting one as well. Development of a new capital improvement plan for the next 3+ years. In other words, what do we see as CapEx going forward? What improvements do we want to make to existing buildings or existing operations? And importantly, the study we've commissioned with the Wisconsin Policy Forum. That independent analysis will help us better understand how Racine County's financial structure compares to peer counties and whether our departments are right-sized for the services we need to deliver. That I find to be a very educational piece for myself and everybody here in the room. Will be very interesting to see what the results of that study bear out. We also need to remain mindful of several budget variables that are still evolving, but will likely shape key decisions. One important area we're exploring involves service realignments to relieve pressure on the courthouse, which is increasingly strained by the number of services operating out of that service. As youth detention services transition to the YDCC Center, we'll have the opportunity to make more strategic use of our facilities, potentially consolidating operations and relocating services such as the ADRC and public health to more efficient, purpose-fit locations. These adjustments would improve service delivery, reduce our reliance on lease spaces, which is an important one to control our expenses. If we have the space, why lease space, right? And better align our physical footprint with our operational goals, which would better serve our community and our citizens. Looking ahead, housing remains a top concern. We're studying programs modeled after Washington and Sheboygan counties. I understand City of Kenosha had a program down there as well, which was very successful, to stimulate affordable housing development, affordably priced housing development, to bring our young people in, our professionals, college graduates, tradespeople, to make affordably priced housing that they can start a life here in our community. In roughly 5 to 7 years, I believe we're projected to see population declines over the state. And we want to be competitive when we're talking about bringing people to this area, because we want to be able to staff places like Microsoft and other business developments, which I've heard of some very exciting ones in the pipeline. We know that if we don't act now, we'll be facing an even greater housing crisis within the next 5 years. We need to protect our population, which is what I just said. And part of that is making sure working families and seniors can afford to live here. Finally, I want to thank you for your recent support on the Discover Wisconsin partnership. This initiative is an important step in showcasing all that Racine County has to offer, helping us to attract visitors, support local business, and strengthen our economic future. Your approval set the stage for long-term growth and puts us on the map in a new exciting way. I was at the initial meeting talking about that, and there was a lot of excitement across the county by the different organizations involved with that program to promote the opportunity to promote our county in a positive light. So tonight is about partnership. It's about hearing your perspective and understanding where you believe we should focus our investments. Your insight is critical to building a budget that works, not just on paper, but in the lives of the people we serve. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to fiscal so we can go to work on this. Because it's going to be a long process, not tonight necessarily, but over the course of this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive. Appreciate that. Getting some feedback. Does the mic go off up there? John? Oh. Sorry, go ahead, Glenn. Oh, okay. So welcome, everybody. Trying to get used to this. It's a little bit loud. So I'm Byron Dean. I'm the Finance and Budget Manager for Racine County. So again, thank you all for being here. As the county executive already said, the biggest reason for being here is to get your guys' input to help steer Racine County. We're bringing you in really early this year to get your information, your input, and we're going to use an exercise to do that. It's a simple exercise, but it's helpful just to, focus the feedback. So we look forward to doing that. In front of you, you have a little agenda. It looks something like this. Apologize for all the crinkling. But so this is going to be the order of events for tonight. And we'll roughly stick to this, okay? But we may deviate a little bit, especially with the timing. Also with me today is Gwen Zimmer, the Finance Director, and also Nicole Dwyer. She's also from the Finance Department. So we're going to help facilitate things this evening. Before we get too far ahead of things, Gwen's going to give a financial overview of the county. And then after that, right away, we'll jump to the exercise, okay? So the exercise, just a quick summary of what that's going to be. Basically, if you look at your agenda, there's 4 categories that we have laid out here, okay? They're general enough, I think, to get a lot of feedback. So when we go through the exercise, we're going to tackle one category at a time, and we're just going to take all your ideas for what you have in those particular categories. And then once we go through every category, at the end, we're going to tabulate all the best ideas, okay? And you're probably thinking, well, who gets to pick what the best ideas are? And the answer is you do, okay? Those fancy, pretty stickers you have on your desk in front of you, okay? We're going to use those to kind of vote on what ideas you think are the best ideas. We just ask, and I'll remind you when we get to the exercise, but for each category, you're going to have 3 stickers, and you're just going to, we're asking that you vote in each category using 3 stickers only, okay? Just so we get a nice smattering of representation for each category, okay? And later on, we're going to look through it, and we're going to take it very seriously and glean from that what we can and share it with everybody after we're done with that. But you'll also notice that there's 14 total stickers, okay? So you get 2 bonus stickers that you can spend anywhere you want to, all right? And we'll talk about it more later, just so in case the directions were a little bit unclear, but we'll go over it again. But anyway, now we're going to go ahead and go over the financial overview, and Gwen Zimmer's going to do that.
Thanks, Byron. One thing I want to mention is we're recording this for anyone who can't be here. Plus, we're going to put it on the county's YouTube. So please make sure you're using your microphone. Otherwise, no one will be able to hear you in the recording. And then with that, we ask, try and keep the conversation that we're not talking over each other, just so it's really clear for the folks who are looking at it later. So one thing I want to mention, in case people don't know, I'm going to be out this summer for maternity leave. So Byron is going to be taking point on running through this. He'll be covering for me while I'm gone. He'll be your point of contact for the 26 budget because I'll be at home. So first thing I wanted to do was go through PowerPoint. You've seen this. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Can you use your microphone, please? Yes.
Up there operating them?
It's not a meeting and it was publicly noticed.
Okay, but is this work by themselves? No one has to do it up front?
Yeah, the your light is on.
All right.
Yep, you're good. So this PowerPoint will probably look familiar, especially for folks who've been on the board for a while. It's the same template that we've used for our budget summits and through the sales tax discussions last year. So a lot of it is not going to be new. I just refreshed it with 2025 information and 24 as it becomes available. Any questions before we get started? Okay. First thing we want to do is just gonna give an overview of what the 26 budget is gonna look like. This graph comes from our budget book. It's a requirement of the Government Finance Office Association. In order for us to go for an award, we need to outline what our process is. But essentially, we start working on it in May and June. The budget will be due back from the departments who prepare their own budget in July. We meet with them, make sure we understand what they're doing. They present it to the county executive in August, and then we have meetings with those departments to really dig in, make sure we're understanding what we're doing. Excuse me. They'll put in decision packages if there are things that they'd like to change about their core budget, whether that's operational, such as they want to add another position, or capital, if they want to do a project or buy a piece of equipment. All of that will get filtered to the county executive. And then in September, we put that all together. We get the book ready. I see some books on tables here already. And then that'll go before the county board in October with a final vote in early November. Any questions about that? I wanted to talk about the tax levy because I think that there's been potentially some misunderstanding, and especially for newer supervisors too, on what tax levy actually is. Racine County currently has 4 separate property tax levy lines that not everybody gets. Depending on where the property is located, you might get some, you might get all. Excuse me. But mostly, we're focused on the general county-wide levy. That hits every property in Racine County. And it's made up of debt service and county operations. So you can see the top, debt service, county operations, the bottom, the $2 amounts. This is updated for 2025. So you can see the debt service was 8.6 million and the county operations was 52 million. The county operations can only increase by the amount of net new construction. We cannot go above that unless you go by a referendum. And I don't think anyone here wants to do a referendum to increase their taxes. The debt service can be only what your debt service amount is. So it cannot exceed. We have to report that to the Department of Revenue every year. Our debt service is actually 9.6 million this year, but in the 25 budget, we put 1 million of sales tax revenue against this line. And then going forward, the resolution that approved the sales tax put a minimum of $2 million every year. At least $2 million will go here. It's a direct property tax relief. And if there are questions about that, Corporation Counsel can speak to that. I'm just gonna grab water. Give me 1 sec. Then we have the handicap schools, which we actually didn't levy for that this year. This is more so for the county schools that closed. Do you remember, Bob? Okay, 15, maybe 20 years ago, we're paying the retiree health insurance for those employees. And we had adequate fund balance this year to cover that. So we did not levy for it. It's usually around 300,000, and it only goes for the schools or those properties that were where the school was, west of the interstate, right? Prairie Lakes Library, only where there isn't a library. And then County Bridge Aid, probably can speak more about that if you have questions, but towns and villages can, or not villages, right? Just towns, can request bridge capital projects. So the mill rate is calculated as the equalized value divided by general countywide levy times 1,000. So 2025 is $2.59. A home that's worth 200,000, their tax bill is 518. Oh, thank you. Any questions about this? Does that make sense for some of the newer folks? Okay. This is an example, or actually not example, this is 2020 through 2025 budgets of each area. It is kind of hard to see. This is broken out by service area. So administration, criminal justice, governmental, human services, miscellaneous, and public works. The top line is the criminal justice and courts. So sheriff's office, clerk of courts, district attorney. And then the other lines are below. And just noting, criminal justice accounts for the largest portion of the tax levy, using about 41 million, or 78% of the county general levy. Any questions? Okay. These are some examples of state mandates, mandated services that the state requires us to provide, but not necessarily fully funded, as well as some non-mandated services. And then the Wisconsin state statute that dictates the levy limits. And I know we talked this to death during the sales tax and the budget, but happy to provide any information if you'd like. Byron, do you remember when we pulled the non-funded part of the mandated services? It was staggering. It was 40, 50, $60 million that the county, the taxpayer, is paying for services that the state requires us to provide. Okay, now we're gonna get into my favorite part, the numbers. I wanted to show what the levy increase has been on the general county-wide levy. So not the debt service, not the schools, not the library, just the part that you can only increase by net new construction. So you can see our net new construction amount, we've been under 2% since 2022. I know the governor's budget includes, like you can take the 2%, you can do either what your net new construction is or a 2%. Who knows if that will actually go through. But 1.58% equaled less than 800,000 for our budget. So 800,000 can get eaten up pretty quickly. And then just kind of showing an example of how we compare to other counties who are similar in population and regionality. We have the lowest mill rate. We have the least general county tax, and we have the lowest FTE count comparatively. Any questions about this? And these numbers were found in the Green Book from WCA, as well as the Department of Revenue website, which I can help provide those sources if you'd like to see them. So Racine County is self-insured for health insurance, and we have the HR director here who can speak to that if there's specific questions. But we budget a melded rate for every employee who is eligible for insurance, whether they take it or not, because They could have a life event during the year that allows them to be eligible. And this covers health, pharmacy, and dental. Is that right? So we basically pull all the expenses, how many employees, figure out that percentage. We check it by an actuary, which is required by the Government Finance Association. And then we set our melded rate. We did decrease it this year, mostly because we're looking for cost saving measures, and this is a way that you could do it without cutting staff or other services. But for every employee, if you have one employee in your department, you're going to get charged $13,900 for the insurance for the year, whether they take it or not. Any questions about this? Yeah.
Thanks, Gwen. I have maybe two questions. One, it sort of concerns me that we self-insure, and I know a lot of municipalities do that because of this a relatively small employee base. But do we, as part of our renewing every year, are we getting comparisons from an agent or whoever is helping us with that? I guess at what point should we stop self-insuring and
Yeah.
get the fully?
We do have a broker and we're a
Right.
part of consortiums. So it's not just us, we're a part of larger consortium. But the HR director can speak more about the decision to remain self-insured versus joining a bigger group.
We have taken a look to see if it is still a good option to self-insure. And everything that I've read in our insurance brokers, if you can self-insure, that you should, that there is overtime cost savings with that arrangement.
Okay, and then my second question, as long as you're up here, is
Yeah.
what is the employee cost sharing portion of the premiums?
Right now it is 15% the employees are paying.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Part of the health insurance is also retiree insurance. And as of the end of the year, we had 804 county employees and their dependents who are still on our retiree insurance, 75 of which are county schools related, which is a separate levy line. So this is fully tax levy. This cannot be charged to a grant. This is county taxpayers have to pay for this. And you can see we're on an upward swing here. We're kind of over the bell curve of folks, leaving the plan, but it's still $6 to $7 million a year that the taxpayers are paying for health insurance for retirees.
What year did we discontinue employee?
2012? Yep,
2012.
2012.
So it's not gonna go up.
Yeah.
Besides cost.
Right. Yeah, exactly. As people start retiring, there was a big retirement exodus in 2021, I believe, which was a component of locking in some of the benefits. So we're definitely on our right way there, but this is still going to be a cost for another 10, 15 years. Yeah.
It'll end up like the county schools.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah.
And Mr. Chairman, you're referring to the numbers on the retiree medical benefit? That's what,
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the
Right.
enrollees for it.
right, so there's no new participants?
Not since, what year was it? 2012, you said?
Yeah, any employee who was hired after 2012 is no longer eligible.
Okay,
I was hired in 2010. If I stay with the county, I wouldn't be eligible for insurance benefits, but anyone who was hired after 2012 are not.
okay, and that's a protected or collectively bargained benefit?
No.
Is it a bargain?
No.
Collectively bargained
That
or
that was-
protected, doesn't have to be collectively bargained to be protected.
So our current deputies are eligible for health insurance as long as they've worked for the county for 15 years. And it doesn't matter their date of hire.
Okay, so it's still an active benefit for county sheriffs, for all their employees, it's,
For not
It's
all
a
of their
grant-
employees, for
grant.
the sworn side. So for our deputies and lieutenants and sergeants.
Thanks.
Question, how long is that, is that lifelong or are they 6 to 7 years? Like what's the length?
So it is, it's actually kind of complicated. So we have an appendix in the back of our policy manual. So it depends on their year of hire and what contract that they were under. So for some, it ends when they become Medicare eligible. And for others, they are on our Medicare Advantage plan, and it is continuous.
Do you have any idea of how many are close to potentially falling off this?
Not off the top of my head, but I can get that information.
I'm just curious. I mean, you have to kind of wonder, would it be cheaper to buy, they're close to the end or vice versa? But, okay, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions on the retirees? This is a graph that shows the use of reserves, which were used to reduce tax levy. And just to note, we do sometimes use reserves to pay for capital, like one-time expenses. I removed those from this. This is only for tax levy balancing. And you can note that in the 2025 budget, we used none. As approved by the policy and ordinance by the county board, we should have 16 to 25% of the general funds budgeted operating expenditures in the next year. And we're currently around 18%. And to note, I don't remember what year it was. Tom, was it 2019, 2020? We were at like 35%. So it was a collective decision by the leadership in the county to draw those reserves down because we had excess reserves and then look towards other revenue sources, which is why the decision to enact a sales tax was brought before the board last year.
Are ARPA funds in any of these numbers?
No.
As reserves? Okay.
No, this is just levy.
One, excuse me. Maybe I missed it, but how are the reserve amounts predetermined?
So you look at next year's budget, the 2025 budget, and we list in the budget book what the general fund budget is. I think it's like 120 million. And you do 16% of that. That's the minimum you can have. You have to have, or it'll be out of compliance with our policy.
So that, excuse me, that's the minimum amount
Yeah.
that has to be established
Yeah.
for the reserve account?
Yes,
16% of a hundred
of next year's operating budget.
assumed, okay, assumed operating budget at this point, because we don't know those numbers specifically.
Yeah, I'm thinking of 2024 ending, because I'm in audit field work right now, to 2025's budget. And we know what 25's, but we knew in November.
Correct.
So we knew if we were gonna be close or not.
Thank you.
Yep.
And the 16 to 25% is our own policy
It is,
and a good one, because under
Yes.
that, we'd be negatively impacted with a credit rating.
correct.
Thank you.
Yes, that is the Government Finance Officers Association, which does GASB, Government Accounting Standards. That is their recommendation. This is a policy approved on and established by this board, I think in 2006, and we have never not met the policy. If you do, your credit rating is going to drop immediately. Any other questions? So this talks a little bit more about those reserves, maybe a little higher or nitty gritty than you'd like to get, but the general fund reserve is a measure of our financial resources. It's like a savings account for the general fund, and we build it up over the years as a result of revenues exceeding expenditures. So for instance, health insurance is one of our reserves. If we put 15 million of revenue in there, but we only spend 10, we added to our reserve balance. And GFOA recommends 16 to 25%. In the 25 budget, that would be about 18 million. Like, again, I'm finalizing with the auditors right now. I believe it'll be 20.1 million, 20.2 million. So we're above our 16%. ARPA payments will increase our fund balance significantly until 2026 when it's done. And then this kind of shows, I think Tom just got kicked out of his seat. This shows the level of reserves, committed, assigned, and unassigned. Committed would be the board has authorized this legal limitation. And if we were to change it, we'd have to come to the board for approval. That would be like health insurance. We would have to come to you to say we want to use health insurance for a capital project because you had originally approved it for this. We're changing the purpose of it. Assigned is we're earmarking it, but we can move it between stuff. So I can move between health insurance and public liability, but I can't move outside of that. And then unassigned is our rainy day fund or contingent is what you might have seen it called, and it ensures adequate cash flow. We can pull for it if we need to and shows credit worthiness, fiscal health. Byron and I will be bringing a fiscal note to the Finance and Human Resources Committee next week that shows we're adding $1.6 million into the rainy day fund for 2024. Questions about this? These are our capital expenses for the last few years. One thing I want to note is in 2022 and before, we had sufficient reserve balances in the highway fund to be able to use that to buy squad cars. We didn't have any more cash. So in 2023, we met with our financial advisors and said, still got to buy squad cars. How do we do it when we don't have cash on hand? And we came up with a funding mechanism to do that, do a 5-year note, which is the length, the useful life of the car. So then that becomes bonded. It's included in debt service. Basically, we used to pay cash, now we take out a loan for it. And I think that this is one area, as we're thinking about the sales tax, that we could potentially use some of those dollars or those reserves to do that instead of taking on debt for this. This is something our financial advisors recommend, but obviously, board needs to weigh in on that as we get a little bit further into the sales tax and know what that could look like. Any other questions? Debt service, again, this is to pay for the bonding. And this also includes the Foxconn and the TID 5 debt. But this does not get passed on. That does not get passed on to the taxpayer. They pay a special assessment. So we've got sufficient 3, 4, or 5 levels of reserves to be able to pay the Foxconn related debt. Really, we're just talking about the things that we take on for our capital equipment, that kind of stuff. And then you can see in 25, we use 1 million of sales tax. Going forward, there'll be a minimum of 2 million as dictated by ordinance. Any other questions?
Gwen, yes, I'm sorry. Are there any items specifically that are making up the majority of this debt service? I mean, in other words, the 80-20 principle mentality. Is there in fact a few number of them that are really creating this amount?
I would reference you to the budget book, which outlines all of our debt service payments going back to 2012. We do pay off a good amount every year, which then we replenish with the additional capital bonding. But yeah, there's going to be a few in there that are bigger than normal. And we usually do like 10 to 12 million bonding a year. You can see we did 15 last year or in 2025. So I think it's the needs of the county at the time. If there's another road that needs to be done or a big, building expense or something like that. But so far, this does not include bonding for the large capital projects. So I think it's probably normal capital expenses, but there might be some that are bigger than normal. Yes.
Thank you. why are we putting just 1 million in there? I mean, we're gonna raise more than that for, as far as the sales tax go.
Yeah, so the ordinance that was passed for the sales tax said it's starting in 2026. A minimum of 2 million needed to go to it. And county board leadership, the county executive at the time, before Ralph and the chairman decided to put $1 million here in good faith.
I thought it was 2, but okay, now,
Yeah, it's 2 million starting in 26
okay,
and 1 million in 25.
all right, thank you.
I want to give you a little bit of comparison to our local and like counties. So City of Racine did about 15 million, Kenosha did 22. We did 15 this year. For every 1 million issued, now this might change now as interest rates are changing, but it's about 100,000 of debt service. So that's kind of how we thought you do 10 million a year, we had $1 million in debt service. The levy limit, there is no limit for debt service. It is only capped at what your actual debt payments are. But the state does cap you at a capacity for debt, and it's 5% of the county's total equalized value, which is 1.3 billion. We're never going to fund 1.3 billion. We're sitting at about 140 million right now, which is 12%. So if you think about that like your credit card debt, you want to have 30% usage, we're at 12. All right, and this is where, well, are there any other questions before we get into the activity? No, okay. So I'm gonna turn it over to Byron. We did build in some breaks in here, but basically we're hoping for open, honest, respectful dialogue where us as the county executive's leadership and Ralph himself can hear from you and formulate plans and ideas for the budget with your feedback. Thank you.
Maybe down a little bit, John? We're gonna work through this until we get the sound just right. So yeah, now it's your guys' turn, you know? Again, this whole exercise is just for you to help steer the county. The county executive made it clear that very much wants a partnership with everyone, all the stakeholders. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna explain the exercise again. So as I mentioned before, there's 4 categories in square boxes on your agenda. So we're going to talk about each one separately. So what I'd like to share is, so what this isn't, it's not a debate or anything. We're taking all ideas, and Nicole is just going to write them down for us. You don't want to see my penmanship. That's why she so nicely was volunteered to help out tonight. So she's going to take down all the ideas, and then when we exhaust a category, we'll just move on to the next, okay? And then at the end of all the different categories, we have all the ideas exhausted, we're gonna tally up, okay? We're gonna tally up the top vote getters. And you guys are gonna be the voters, and we'll tally them up, and then all the top votes, we'll share with everybody. We'll share with you right away, but then later on, we're gonna also compile everything and send it out to the full county board as well, so. So to vote, you're going to use your little stickers, 3 per category, and 2 bonus ones at the end, okay? The colors make no difference. Use whatever color you like, okay? We even have extra stickers if anyone wants extra stickers later, okay? But we might charge you because we're government. Anyways. So yeah, so we can get started pretty soon. A Corporation Council did want to remind everyone that when we say voting, we don't mean like these ideas, like if you're not the top vote getter, like it doesn't mean it's not valid or important. This is not a binding vote. It's just basically to help prioritize, you know, the ideas that we get together today. So, all right, good enough. I get the thumbs up. So, let's see. With that said, I think we can consider the first service, first category, which is service priorities. Yep.
Excuse me. Before we get started, may I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
And it has to do with how we will be perceiving, I think, all 4 categories.
Yeah.
Under the philosophy that when it comes to budgeting,
Mm.
an annual budget is prepared obviously in the previous year. And generally speaking, when you get to the point where you're almost midway through a year, you already have a pretty good sense of what your forecast is going to look like at the end of the year.
Sure.
So many things have been baked already. They've already been put into play, and you're already having a sense on the revenue streams and what have you. So my question here is, before we start assuming, do we have any feedback at all on how we are seeing Racine County's operational performance for this year's plan, or against this year's plan? Because that may come into play with how we start thinking about what some of the priorities should be for next year. So I'm curious, has there been a forecast? Because now we've gotten to the 1st of April. So that means that the levy has now gone into effect, the tax levy. And then obviously expenses have already been established throughout the year. I'm just curious for myself, and certainly to share with the supervisors, if we have a sense of how this year's performance is looking, forecasting, before we even start thinking about next year.
Right. So just a couple of points I can make on that. Do we have a full year forecast that we would feel comfortable, like 100%? No, it's almost impossible to do. But what we can do is we can provide year-to-date budget to actual reports. And we do that every month for just about every month for the Finance and Human Resource Committee. And we can certainly make those available to anyone else who wants those. But those are year-to-date budget to actuals, okay? But that will give you a good idea of so far down the road, how are we doing? There's a lot of unknowns. For example, the sales tax. You know, we did our best estimate. We think it's good, you know, but we kind of have to wait and see. We're confident that it'll be good. But again, that money just started coming in April, right? So we're not going to know for a couple months yet to see how things start flowing, okay?
With all due respect and
yeah.
fairness, though, yes and no. because there was an estimated amount that was established that the sales tax levy was going to generate. And that's only one example, by the
Right.
way, all right? And so there would be that presumption that that would be the number that we'd be able to achieve this year
Yeah.
as a forecast. And I mean strictly as a forecast.
Right.
And I understand that forecasts are going to be variable, totally variable.
So to
but
answer your question-
At least it gives us an idea
Mhm.
that we're going to end up hypothetically, guys, we're right on track. We're going to be $3 million up or down or
Right.
whatever the numbers are. Because because by the way, the result of that
Sure.
may also then come into play with what we have to be looking at to do next year.
Mhm.
If we have to offset something that unfortunately wasn't achieved this year.
Understood. So a couple of things again, 100% agree. Forecasts are important, okay? To the extent that we can accurately forecast, and we do attempt to do that, okay? But the best thing we really have to go on, is what we plan for, but also the year-to-date budget actuals, which we do on a monthly basis. And so far, through this date, it's looking pretty good, okay? We finished up last year pretty strong. And Gwen already shared that we have a surplus that we're going to be able to put into reserves, a rainy day fund. So that's promising. Looking forward, yeah, I feel confident that we'll be where we budgeted for, okay? But we have to, take it one day at a time and see how things go. We don't want to overpromise, under-deliver, right? We do our best. A budget is an estimate based on the things that we know, right? And the best estimates we can make. So we're doing our best to stick to that and make it happen, so. And the other thing I would say is that, as county executive had mentioned, that dollars are important, budget dollars are important. And ultimately, we only can do what we can do as far as splitting up that pie, you split up so much. But there are other considerations to make as far as what direction, should the county be going? What services should the county be providing? Are there areas of operations that can be more efficient, in your opinion? Or are there areas of cost that we should look at, for some of those cost reductions to make sure in the years going forward, we're hitting those estimates and doing everything we can to rein in costs. And so that's kind of what this exercise is for, is to inform the county executive in that future budget process for 2026 and forward. So not just 2026, but going forward, but 100% agree. What happens this year will play into like what we do going forward for sure. But this exercise is more than just budget dollars. It's important, but it's more than just that. And I think we can get some good information from it. So does that help or?
I think we're going to continue to disagree, but that's okay. Let's keep the process moving forward.
Yes, sure, Supervisor Horwath. I wasn't sure we were disagreeing. I thought we were just discussing, but thank you. Yeah, yes, sir.
Thank you, Byron. Supervisor, I agree with you, but this is a vision session. Where do we want to go? Yes, it would be good to have the forecasts. The forecasts are going to tell the numbers, but part of the budget is also the possibility of what our vision is for next year and the remaining years going forward. So I kind of agree with you, but not 100%.
I'm ready.
We do need to get into the exercise too, though, right? Yes, sir.
That's what I'd like us to get focused back on. So service priorities for me, number one is public works.
Okay, can you elaborate a little bit on public works? Like,
Sure.
so when you say public works, that's
Parks and
very
highway.
general.
Parks and highway.
Parks and Highway?
Yeah.
Okay, providing more services, how for Parks and Highway?
Well, comparatively to our neighboring counties, we pave less
Okay.
roads than our neighbors.
Okay.
So it'd be nice
We
to see a
we can
vision
go with that.
to do that, potentially invest more in,
Yeah.
in parks.
Do more in Parks and County, especially compared to our peers.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. So, so this is your time. So you have your agenda. You can write down ideas as other people are talking or debating or whatever the case happens to be. So any other, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Mine is going to start with a question, but it is a priority. So the mental health facility, just understanding where that funding is at and wondering if the funding, if we're moving forward with that, but if it's alongside our current mental health initiatives, or is it a more comprehensive to the mental health services support system that we want to provide, and how does it fit in the whole ecosystem of our mental health?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll take the first part. We are absolutely are still doing the mental health building. We're not giving any money back to the feds for ARPA. We did everything we were supposed to do to obligate those funds. Project is going ahead. You guys should have gotten an invite to the groundbreaking this month. I'll turn it over to Hope.
Okay, and so in terms of service expansion, the primary goal of the mental health facility is to what the county executive talked about earlier, which is no longer renting space and being able to move into a centralized location that's on our campus, which obviously the 1720 Taylor Avenue does. There is a portion that we would be expanding upon, which is that substance abuse residential treatment facility. That's a 30-day sort of sober living environment that's helping people with substance abuse and addiction issues transition back to the community. That is an area where, to say revenue equals expenses, so any net adds in that area, we've seen over time in that area that we basically balance out, so we don't anticipate any financial add through that, but that is a service expansion. At this time, there is no plans to increase any staffing. That would be different. We might look at the way we're delivering services in a more unique way, and so we have some things in the pipeline that I'll be sharing with my committee, and we go through our process with the Health and Human Development Board, and we establish the priorities kind of collectively. So I have some ideas of that, but they're very early.
Thank you. So if we could put for a priority, definitely mental health, but all encompassing, not so much I hear we're expanding services for substance abuse, but how we're looking at all of our community members. So whether it's experiencing homelessness, whether it is, it's not AODA anymore, is it? That's what
SUD.
SUD now,
Substance
SUD.
use disorder.
Yeah, or any other form of mental health. So definitely a high priority.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Supervisor Capelli. Yes, sure, Mr. Shakur.
Thank you. I'll be quick. But I'm sure if most of you know me, you probably know what I'm getting ready to say, but I think that a priority by all means is three things. Family, family, family.
Yes, sir. How can we service the family?
Now, okay, well,
Sorry, I don't mean, I
well,
want to keep things rolling a little bit.
well, okay.
Yes, sir.
We have the youth and the family division. We got social work, we got jobs.
Yes, sir.
There's a lot of things that's tied to the
Mm.
family. And what I'm getting at in the long run, so I'm gonna take up a lot of time, is that crime, having a lot of jails,
Yes, sir.
all the things that go along with not coming from a good family home. Now, again, there's some that have good families, but still kids do what they do. But
Yeah.
for the most part, family, 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 and working with human services, which is an excellent operation now. And we want to make sure that we keep that going because
Yes, sir. Good. Family services. Is that good?
that's it.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Please be a little graceful with me. We're trying to keep the ball rolling a little bit. We have till 8 o'clock tonight, which is pretty good, but it could go by really quick. So we want to get as much feedback from you guys as possible so we can tally them up and get everyone's votes in. So, yes, sir.
I'm new to this, I guess. I originally had a question related to Supervisor Horth and some others and I know the Honorable Judge Wishaw got us onto the actual priorities, but what are we prioritizing here? Because as I look at this slide, if we look at the general levy, if 78% of it is spent on criminal justice,
Yes, sir.
all the rest is just 20%. So
Right.
what flexibility do we have for whatever priorities that we want?
My boss is getting up, so I better be quiet.
I mean, ultimately, this board approves the budget. There are mandated services we must provide. Microphone on. Yeah.
Right, we're hitting on those, so we're totally hit on mental health, that's a
Yeah.
mandated service, so.
It can be whatever this board decides, you know, ultimately, and I'm just throwing ideas out there. You could cut the sheriff's office by 80% and let it be 20% of the levy. There's a minimum amount of mandated service you have to provide. So that's your direction for staff to say, we want to spend less in this area and more over here, or more in this area, less over here. So I wouldn't look at what we've historically done. What do you want to see going forward? And then we make that happen and present it to you for approval.
Okay. All right, thanks. I guess just having a minute or so to think about this, I guess my priority for, I guess its service would be to encourage development and net new construction, because if that's how our general levy is set in the first place, then we should make it a priority to encourage activities that are going to grow the levy that will then fund all the other services we have. My follow-up question to that would be, when we talk about housing or solving the housing
Oh,
crisis.
one second. What do you say, Mr.
Preisker.
Preisker, I'm sorry.
That's
I didn't
okay.
want to butcher it too much, but, so you're saying you want to increase the services that will help, increase,
I just encourage development and net new construction,
so economic development. Would that be, say,
specifically net new construction.
net new construction? Okay,
Encourage net new construction.
right. Thank you. I just want to make sure we got that down.
No, that's right.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and then pieces of that can be commercial development, like, you know, like Microsoft, for example. Pieces of it could be residential development, like the county executive mentioned, like housing. Specifically to housing, I'd like to know more what we're talking about when we talk about that, because
Sure.
at every level of government in the state and in the nation, people are talking about a housing crisis.
Right.
And I don't think we're clear on what we mean when we keep changing the terms, right? It's low income, it's workforce, it's affordable. I've heard people say it's, you know, it's your workforce, which would be like a dual income teacher, law enforcement household or something.
Mhm.
And if you assume they're both making 70,000 a year, then we're talking about homes that are $500,000. Like, is
Right.
that what we're talking about? Or are we talking about something else?
I think more of that will be coming down the road a little bit.
Thanks.
Brian, I don't know if this, again, I'm not sure what category it goes under, but I'm gonna just call it tourism.
Okay.
How do we generate more, putting a priority on generating more revenues, as opposed to unfortunately having so many discussions about how you gotta cut expenses? Because driving the revenues will be way more exponentially successful to helping the overall. So I don't know if that goes under services. Again, to me, the vision, as Supervisor Trottier
Mhm.
was sharing, is to talk about how do we
Absolutely.
now
Yeah.
position Racine in a more, and a stronger light, not a better, a stronger light to generate revenue.
So tourism. Yes, sir. Thank you. Keep them coming.
I'll go. So Melissa mentioned homelessness under like mental health services, but there are other reasons for homelessness. And so I would like that to be a category with somehow addressing like no fault evictions and the records that keep holding people down once they get evicted that may be of no fault of theirs.
Homeless services.
So
would that be-
homeless services.
Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's hear it.
I
We have
wanna-
more pages too, by the way, so we can turn them.
I want to address poverty and food insecurities.
Right. Thank you.
And I'll just, since Al Gardner isn't here and we're brainstorming, I want something addressed for racial disparity, which is still an issue here in Racine County.
So how would we make that into a service?
But I think it should be on there.
Racial disparity services. We'll figure out better wording for it later when we get to talk about it a little more. So. All right, I think we're on to page 2 already. Let's see how we're doing on time real quick.
I have
Sweet.
a couple more too.
All right, I think we're doing okay on time, but we do need to get on operational. And there will be some crossover too between the different categories. Like, as you were talking, some of these things I thought maybe could be operational a little bit too. So there may be some overlap, which is good. So, Supervisor Capella,
Thank you.
sorry.
All right.
Did you,
Go ahead.
This will be
Ladies
my
first.
second. No. You go first. Maybe I won't even need to speak.
Well, I doubt that, but anyways, we should work with the school districts on vocations. Um, you know, Q has got a lot. Jody's has a lot. It kind of brings it all together. You work with, the high school districts, and maybe you have a job fair where you bring in the trades. Is that economic development? No, I don't know where it would actually fit. Something like that, yeah. I mean, we have workforce development, right? And that's, you get this high school juniors and seniors that don't really know what they want to do. So you bring them in and show them the trades. I mean, you can be anywhere from an electrician to a carpenter, and those are really good paying jobs. Rossi will tell you that, that there's a lot of need for trades.
it's like kind of community outreach focused toward the young
Right.
people who are getting more career.
But some people,
career
some
services?
people, 4-year college isn't for everybody.
Oh, wait. Okay.
Right, but you're focusing it more, on the trades, law enforcement, paramedics, firefighters, all that, people that aren't cut out for being accountants, lawyers, doctors.
All right, help me
Work with
to,
their hands.
help me to package that together so we can get it on the
Yeah.
board. What's that?
I think K-12 talent pipeline
All right.
in high wage, high demand fields.
All right,
Because it's really focusing on the school aspect of connecting to readily available jobs that pay well, right?
Right,
That
I
That could
mean,
be the
it's,
trades, it could be law enforcement. it could be-
and it's not necessarily just
slash.
the local trades here, you can be
Executive.
an operating engineer. There's numerous
Right.
companies that, all the way
Second
from
trade
the road
fields.
pavers to guys that are,
Yeah, awesome.
and they've got different kind of trades. Another thing is, the county services that we do have, we should take a look and see, and maybe this is a little bit further down the line, but what is working, what's not,
Right,
I mean, and that's probably not so much on the services here, but if you spend $100,000 on something and it doesn't show $100,000 worth of
Right.
return versus something maybe that you spend $100,000 on and gets you more return, you have to make those decisions. What are we, how many people are we hitting? How many people are we? So you have to kind of prioritize the system,
so would you want that under services or would you want that under a cost cutting idea?
Well, it's more priorities and operation, actually, I think.
Okay,
But
let's put it there.
yeah,
I'll try to remember to bring it up again and
Yeah,
you try to
yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
Between the two of us, maybe, the rest of us, maybe some.
the other thing that you have to be, is service priorities is the like Taylor Wishaw having a road program. We do have a road program, but we have to have a road program that's feasible and doable based on how much funding we have. Same thing with any type of new programs that are going to grow. You have to have that, not necessarily do you need to do $1 million, but you need to do $1 million every year. You
Right,
can't go like this. Otherwise your funding, it's a downward spiral if you don't keep your funding at a certain level.
we place that under capital? Because
I
it's
would-
kind of like part of the capital improvement.
Yeah, probably
Making sure
keep
we-
a steady capital, public, transportation funding.
Okay.
Because if you don't, that's where the revenue stream comes in, how they figure it at state.
Right.
It's, share of cost. You don't spend as much, you don't get as much, and then you don't get as much, so you don't spend as much, and
Right.
it's a downward spiral.
Got it. Thank you. Are we going to come back to Supervisor Capellian first and then?
She.
Okay.
Whoa.
Well,
She talks more than I do, so.
yes, sir.
Yeah, right. That's a race. That's a race. I would like expansion of the Racine County Board of Health for services. So we can continue to start at the ground level by providing additional services for 0 to 3 births. So we can provide services for the schools, get into the schools more, do more presentations to the general public. So the Racine County Board of Health
Expansion of the.
expansion, public health would be better termed. Yes,
Okay. Expansion of public health. Thank you.
you bet. Thank you.
Oh, please, I see 100% to you. Please.
Yes, but I've already had it. I mean, I've had an opportunity, so I'll make it brief. There will be in 10 years, some of our Wisconsin counties are going to be, half of our population are going to be of the age of 65 or older. So I would like to see a priority that we focus on our aging population, whether that's through, I mean, every service of Racine County services, but through, whether it's through parks, whether it's through mental health, or incorporating some avenues for tech, whether it's increasing our ADRC to expand in it, because we are really behind the 8 ball on this one. So aging.
Aging services. Got it. Thank you.
If I could, I would, maybe where I said tourism earlier,
Yes, sir.
maybe I could just make the request that effort is put into the development of a revenue generating plan
Mhm.
as a part of next year's budget, whereby we take a look at not only the tourism component, but certainly grant opportunities and other things. So revenue generating plan
Yes, sir.
to try to help offset what we're dealing with.
Can we do tourism / revenue generating plans? Would that work?
Wording is up to you.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Thank you. Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
I got one more. Racine needs to revitalize its downtown.
Okay.
I mean, nobody after you get to a certain point comes to Racine.
Mm.
We have a great lakefront. We got a great festival park. We got a harbor. They used to have music festivals down there. I don't know why they didn't or why they don't, but maybe we can have a push towards bringing some people into Racine and revitalizing it. I know,
So would
there's
that
there's a lot of different problems that we have to address, but if we don't start talking about it, we're never going to do it.
So would that come in the form of more support for like the RDEC, RDR?
I would think it kind of,
Yeah,
it
Thank you.
kind of piggybacks on the tourism.
Mm.
Not so much that, you're bringing somebody from out of state, but like I say, how many people do you think from Waterford go down to the lakefront?
Mm.
There's nothing to do. They get to Summerfest quicker. They get to the Bucks game quicker. So that's a big problem, and it ain't gonna be solved in one budget.
So can we say entertainment services?
I would say the revitalization of downtown we're seeing, and I know that's gonna have to work with the city.
Mm.
But if you don't start talking about it, we're gonna have the same downtown that we've had for the last 10 years.
Right. Just trying to
Next
think of
neighbors.
where to put that. Would that be again, kind of like in,
I would think, it's kind of a combination of economic development
okay,
and,
capital? Yeah.
working with the city.
Okay.
They probably have to take the lead though.
So definitely economic development services.
Harvest Max is back.
You say / economic development. I think it's fair. It's on there a couple times. Yeah, that's good. It's
Mr. Byron.
Yeah, and then if this is okay, this will be the last one, and then we'll move on to the next category, which is the operational priorities.
So we already heard that, like 78% of the levy goes to law enforcement,
Yes, sir.
but we don't have public safety up there.
Mm.
In my years on the board, the most calls I get are about roads, which is up there, and public safety. So I think we certainly have to have that, item on. Public safety has to be on there because it's something that our constituents assume is gonna be there, and also, in my experience, place a high priority on it.
Okay. So just public safety services or anything more specific or just generally public safety? Thank you. All right, so we have a bunch of items on here under services, and I think we will just start some new pages here. Or, yeah. I think we're going to want to stick these on the wall over there. Just a second. I will do it. Which one? Got it? Eraser blade? Thank you. All right, so next, did you guys get some ideas for operational priorities? Yeah. All right.
Cyber security, I think should get a strong focus.
Okay.
I'm not going to be able to articulate that as good as probably our IT director can, but I think if we don't have a very robust cyber program,
Cybersecurity.
then none of this all matters.
Thank you.
So,
Other operational things, ideas?
Byron, how about buildings and grounds operations and maintenance?
Yes, sir. Facilities management.
Would focusing on our mobile mental health be under operations?
I think so.
Okay,
Okay.
if you put that there.
Mobile mental health
Yeah.
operations. Okay. So Scott, if I can come back to you just for a second, is there anything, when you say facilities management or buildings facilities, are you just talking about like general upkeep of county?
Maintenance. So for
County-
example, like the
county
courthouse windows, we've been kicking it down the road for how long?
Right.
You know, so now it's stuff like that
Right.
that we need to try to stay on top of more.
Got it.
And that, you know, and even simple stuff as, you know, getting the grass cut and roadside maintenance and stuff like that, but also buildings and facilities.
Yes, got it. Okay. Don, I saw your.
Thank you, Byron. One of the most critical ones that I'm concerned about is human capital. We have operations up there, and in order to do the operations, we need employees, quality employees, to be maintained in their positions and adequate pay for those positions. So I think that is so critical to the whole success of the county, the right people. So we need to focus on that as we go forward. Again, within the budget, okay? But that needs to be a priority. How do we do that? Well, we are going to be getting this study that is being completed, and we'll know then where the salaries are, where they need to be, where we might need to go. So do we need to implement in the future something that we weren't able to provide for the 2025 budget, which was the merit increases? We did provide the cost of living, but not the merit increases. So human capital is so critical for the success of our county, getting the right people that are currently here and getting people to come into our county to want to work.
So can we just say human capital management? Would that
That's
be-
perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Byron.
I don't want to ignore this side.
Okay.
I got a lot over there. Yes, sir.
I think this could go in two categories, but the proper execution of the emergency management system plan. However, that could go in capital possibly, but there's going to be such a huge operational portion of that. And presuming that's going to go into effect and certainly end of this year, all of next year, just again, execution of emergency management system plan.
Right. Thank you. Oh, that's what I thought you were talking about.
One is totally different, but which did you mean?
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor.
I guess what I'm saying is though, that that's going to be part of the capital expenditures, isn't it then?
The 911 infrastructure, yeah.
Because emergency management is,
Okay,
we have a tornado.
911.
All right. 911 infrastructure?
Whatever it's supposed to be called, I think you understand what I'm trying to get.
Yeah, we got it. Good news is we're building a whole new radio system, I believe. So, and that's a capital project, which would be great for the 911 system. We'll put that under capital, but the emergency management was a pretty good one too, though. So, okay, all right. Thank you. All right. And for capital, remember, we'll circle back around and I think just the general human capital piece will be captured under what Don was talking about before for 911 dispatch. It's a tough job, so that would be captured under that particular one.
Just not to confuse it though, I absolutely agree with that,
Yeah.
but I'm also thinking about all the components that are going to have to come together for this to be put in place and to operate effectively.
Yes, sir.
It's more than just the 911 number. It's going to be all the towns and villages and all the municipalities, if you will, that are going to have communication, and it's going to have to come together. So that's why there's a plan for it. We can leave it at that right now.
Okay. We'll put it back out there then. Okay. 911 operations, intergovernment operations. Is that okay? Does that sound okay? So I think it captures.
Yeah,
what-
no, critically important, but I think there might have been a disconnect on saying emergency management, because that's a very specific department now related to disasters. Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
We need to make it a priority to have proper trainings for the fields that people are in,
Okay.
people being properly trained.
Yeah.
Instead of, okay, I'm not gonna go there now, but proper trainings for the fields of people that we're trying to get within whatever department. But we need some more trainings. Yeah. Yeah, I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Sir.
So Hope touched on it, and this is kind of, we haven't even broke ground on it, but and it brings in the human capital, but the operational expenditure we're going to be made probably in 2027 with the mental health building. If we can get an idea on what it is by June, or July, what that operation is going to entail in bringing out, how many more people do we need to have? What's that going to be? And that's going to be a recurring cost. It's if you're adding 10 people or 15,
Right.
That's a difference of about $500,000 in benefits. So, if we can make that a priority to set what the operation is going to look like, it'll be, as we start the project. So
Thank-
when it's done,
Mm.
or we can have an idea as to, because what you're going to do in 27 may affect what you're going to do in 26 if you know enough ahead of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I may, I'd like to just speak on the mental health building. The only new component is the substance abuse area, the CDRF, and all of that is covered by revenue. So there's no net add to county levy or to
But-
county
but-
financial operations.
But still, what's the operation? I mean, you're telling me it's going to be offset.
Yeah, it's a completely 100% reimbursable expense by
So how many
insurance.
people are we going to hire?
If it's 10, those 10 people's salaries will be covered by the insurance revenue. No one will be in that facility who can't pay for it.
Are we gonna have any cost share in that at the local taxpayers?
I don't believe so.
Okay, that's, I mean, you know what I'm saying? I'm, you know,
And I guess it would be a little bit premature prior to developing the budget to say there absolutely won't be. We just don't have any intention because the facility won't open until almost at the end of the year. So we wouldn't have any intention of adding any new services.
what
Other,
year?
yeah,
20
sorry,
what year?
26 at the
26,
end,
Right,
right?
so
Mhm.
27 is where we're gonna fund this stuff. The new positions and,
So-
and have the new revenues coming in.
Yeah, so the residential arm, again, anticipated to have net expenses. So no matter how many we add, I mean, we are expecting to be able to finance that. That's what we've been told by the state, by our partners that have been working on this. We also would have the potential of a revenue generating component, to your point, that we would be able to serve in a regional capacity. So we would be able to charge other counties. So like the Youth Development and Care Center, our operational budget actually decreased because of the ability to charge other counties and communities for it. We're paying for our own residents and having them reimbursed. But other
Right, I
counties
just,
keep paying us.
that's all well and good, but have we put any numbers to it yet?
No.
Okay. That's what we
And-
need. And that's what I'm saying is we need to put the numbers into it so we make sure that, you know, that we're going down that road by the time we are sitting here next year.
Mhm.
So we can make an educated decision as to what happened.
I mean, if you asked Yelena, she'd probably have a clue based on our staffing of our sale program. I just wouldn't be able to tell you exactly how many because it's a 24/7 operation and.
Right,
just
I
wanna-
understand that, but that's the things we need to know. So.
Agreed,
And,
completely.
and the other thing is that, and this ain't gonna make,
To help operations.
this will make everybody for an operations, but we need to take a look at how our, you know, most of our we've got, public safety. And back in 2019, we added 18 positions, which 15 are at the sheriff's department, which are now 15. Under the assumption that we were going to have 16,000 people working at Foxconn, and we were going to have substantial growth in subdivisions and more population. Since 2010, our population went up about 4,000, Bob. But, yeah. So we need to, as an operation, we need to take a look at that and see if we're staffed correctly. Now, maybe we are, maybe we aren't. But the assumption of adding those 15 people were based on assumptions that didn't happen. So we need to take it as an operational, you know, priority. We need to take a look at that type of operation.
Public safety analysis or.
Well, an
public sa-
analysis on something that didn't happen. Are we staffed correctly? Or did we add 15 deputies or 18 we're going to add, but add 15 deputies that we have
Understand.
now?
So public safety rebalancing perhaps,
Well, you have to take a look and
if needed. I think the county
So-
executive has.
I'll throw something at you, Tom. That's one of my main goals with that study, that policy forum. I want to know if we're right-sized across the board, and that would include our public safety areas. So that was the whole motivation for that study. Are we right-sized? And to your point, were we right-sized before we added those positions? Or did those positions make us right-sized? Or did they overstaff us?
we don't know.
We don't
That's
know.
what I'm saying is an
Right.
operational priority. We need to find that out.
So I want to ask you guys one other thing while I'm up here. Do you want to keep going on the subjects as long as there's conversation? I don't have to be home till next Tuesday, so I'm okay with that. Or we could come back with a second session for the other two categories, whatever you'd like to do. I like the conversation, I like the back and forth. And Supervisor Horth, to your questions earlier, this is the first step in many steps as far as this year goes. I wanted to hear from you folks what you think priorities in our counties are, and that's going to get boiled down because at the end of the day, we only have X number of dollars to spend. That's what it comes down to. And conversations like this are going to help us determine what those dollars are directed at and what they're not directed at. So that's the whole motivation. So just want to clear that up. If you guys want to keep going on one topic or one category or get two done tonight, we can come back another time or we can go through all four. So whatever your pleasure is.
You get an early vote. Are we gonna vote?
I have to clarify something, and I'm going to admit my own error here. You said population. So in 2010, the Racine County population was 195,407. 10 years later, we went up about 400 people. So hardly any growth.
So we had no growth, right? So
That's
exactly. what
Yeah,
I'm
you were
saying.
making an important point, and I wanted to
Right.
validate it with the statistic.
Right. And that's, and that is kind of what I'm getting at here,
Yes, sir.
you know, so. Thank you.
Yes, sir, Supervisor Wishaw.
Thank you. I'm just gonna shift to the next one, priorities for capital.
Can my mic's been on for a while.
We will get there.
Jody,
We will
go ahead.
get there.
Go ahead, Jody, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
You can come back.
Not yet. We're finishing up. We'll be there on the next one. We'll be there.
That's good.
Thank you, sir.
So,
See, someone wants to roll things along a little bit.
one of my concerns is that the things that the county executive mentioned aren't on these lists. So does that mean we aren't voting on them, such as housing and the court system?
So,
improvements?
so if there's things that you think should be up here, we'll put them up here.
I think we need to put housing on, that list, and then the court system, maybe hiring more or somehow reducing wait times for people who are being held for their hearings.
All right. So, got it. So court operations?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Specifically for,
Oh.
what do you call people who are coming in for court hearings, especially for court hearings?
People are being held for sometimes a year and
Mhm.
costing them their families and their jobs.
Trial, detention, pre-trial. Thank you.
Thank you. That's,
And then we can put affordable housing over there
thank you.
first.
So that gets voted on. And then the other thing that came to my mind is the oversight of group homes and daycare centers.
Okay,
Some
yeah.
more county activity on that. I know they're like
As an
speaking on
operational area,
programs, but
Yeah.
yeah, as an outreach.
oversight of group homes.
Homes, yeah, AFHs and daycare that are.
Do we
in
do that,
small
Hope?
homes.
Oh, do we oversee group homes and,
Not really. It's a complicated answer.
so you would like that as a service we provide perhaps?
I'm even serious.
I mean, because we don't currently have the operation, but we could put it on the services list as far as, okay. Thank you, Supervisor. All right, so we have a pretty good list of items. Is there anything pressing or on the top of your mind that you absolutely would like to have on the operations list or category? Supervisor Shakur, anything? Family operations? Can we have that under services? And how can we word that a little bit differently for operations? Is there any particular operations like an HSD or anything that you'd like to see bolster that support family? Yeah. Youth services? Might tie in good with Chairman Kramer's concern about young people, youth summer jobs operations. That'd be a good one. Family operations / youth summer job operations. Thank you. Thank you, sir. All right, I think so. To the county executive's point, he made the offer. Should we keep plowing ahead with the last two categories? It's about 6:35 now. It is. So no need to cut it short. I'm here for the long haul. I'm very happy. I personally think this is awesome. I think it's very valuable. Just having this information, and again, we're going to take it and we're going to, after you guys vote on it, We'll share the results, but we're gonna, chew it over after this and try to put it into a little report that we could share with the full county board.
I would like to follow up on that comment, Brian. This is a great process. We tried to do something like this about 20 years ago and nothing really became of it. But I appreciate the county executive calling us together and soliciting our ideas. And this is an important function of preparing a budget. And, we're responsible for the budget. He's responsible for preparing it, but we're responsible for passing it. And this kind of dialogue and brainstorming is really good.
Thank you, Supervisor. So with that, let's take another quick 5-minute break. We're a little bit behind, but we can jump ahead easy enough. So we'll take a 5-minute break and then reconvene. Thank you, guys. for capital priorities. So hopefully you guys have had a little bit of time to think about the capital priorities the county should be pursuing. I think we have just about everyone back in the room. And before we get going, I'd just like to thank everyone for just for contributing and for the conversation, the dialogue is appreciated, it's valuable, and it's good. So capital, what are the capital needs? Yes, sir, Mr. Wishaw.
What's This may also fall into cost cutting ideas, but I'm just gonna throw this out there. We need to potentially look at down the line, a mid-county facility that encompasses all of our services here in this general area.
So say that again?
Yeah, I guess streamlining services to where
Did you
we,
say mid-county?
yeah. So instead of having everything at the courthouse.
Oh, I see.
Location that I drove.
Thank you, yeah. Have it here, centrally located in the county. The other piece of this could be if we decide to do that, let's either dump the courthouse as an asset or let's retrofit it and turn it into office rentals or apartment rentals and generate revenue from there.
All right.
Just a,
So mid-county location for staff,
services.
for services, mid-county for services, and selling county buildings, specifically the courthouse.
Revenue.
All right. That's a big one. Yes, sir.
I'll say roads and parks. I think all of us have casual users of county assets, and I think most people use the roads and a fair number of people use the parks. I think it was mentioned about roads, but I just want to make sure that we're budgeting appropriately, which should be something like, the total miles of road we're responsible for divided by the useful life, funded at whatever the cost per mile is. I don't think we're currently doing that and keeping up.
Increasing funding levels for roads. Anything particular about parks? Like when you say parks, anything in particular? Campgrounds, fishing, is there anything,
Well, I mean, I'm assuming capital is referring to our assets and capital expenditure. So I guess development of parks, I hear a lot about Pritchard Park, but
okay.
In my district, there's Bushnell Park, which has had hardly any investment, if any investment over the last couple of decades.
All right. Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah, roads. Well, it's kind of tight. That's fine.
Neglected parks.
Yes, sir. Sorry, Mr. Trotter.
Thank you, sir. I will second that with the parks. Number one, the biggest park we have, I always forget the name of it, way on the north side by the lake. What is the name of that park? Cliffside Park, thank you. I would like to see there be built a couple of permanent spots that we could rent out, like $30,000 to $35,000 units with no plumbing but water there, and we could rent them out all summer long. So that's one thing there. And also campgrounds west of the I. There was talk a couple of years ago when I was on the board, maybe it was 3-4 years ago, about a campground that was butted up against wetlands. And we as a county board said, no, we didn't want it. I'm hearing through the Parks Division that there is another idea for a campground that is very close to that and not in the wetlands. And this is just, I believe, right off of Highway 36. So the amenities are very important for our county to bring people into the county. Again, going back to the human capital concept I've talked about, bringing people in to do things in our counties. So they work here, they play here, and they spend money here. And upgrading the campgrounds and upgrading the buildings. Again, talking to the parks people, we could rent all those out and the costs to build would be covered over a period of time.
Okay.
So upgrading the campgrounds and upgrading, what's the name of the park again? Cliffside Park.
Parks, yeah. Yep, okay. Specifically Cliffside? Okay.
Yes, specifically Cliffside. A couple of years ago, I'll just throw this in. I was talking to Raleigh and I got Jonathan to agree to this. They added a log splitter. It was like $15,000 about, what was it, 3 years ago? Because I understand the parks were hauling the wood from Cliffside out to, let me say, Tom's area, Rochester or Norway, truck and everything like that. They now use the log splitter and they sell every bit of wood and they make money on it every year. So, I mean, these investments do pay out over a period of time.
Just out of curiosity, what constitutes a capital expense?
So well, technically a capital expense for us by our policy would be anything over $5,000. That's a thing. So that's, it's physical, it's over $5,000. But,
No,
it could be,
That's
it
the
doesn't have
policy.
to be a large building, it could be vehicles, the capital assets, it could be,
But $5,000 is the number.
yeah,
Okay.
5,000
I'm just curious.
in a thing. So, physical usually. In rare cases, you can capitalize software expenses if it's proprietary software. That's one of the few examples I think where you could capitalize something that's not a physical asset. So, yes, sir.
So we need to upgrade our public works storage area to expand, repair, replace.
Public Works field house or yard or what would you call that?
Garages,
Garages?
yeah.
Public work garage.
Garages, yeah, where you park
Expansion
where
or-
you park the equipment in.
Okay.
So we can get to the equipment. Sometimes I've heard they were moving equipment to get other equipment out. And then the top one, the mid-county locations, if, what was that, Bob, 2018, we had a facility study that addressed all that in there. To moving out the registered deeds treasurer and clerk's office out to Ives Grove here. Now, that's dated, but that's where we can start with that idea and see where we go.
Thank you, sir. All right, what else do we have? Capital ideas. So how would economic development fit under capital? Would that fit under capital at all? Economic development?
Not really unless you're doing a cost share on some type of TIF district like we did with Foxconn.
Wonder if there's any other, this is just me thinking out loud while you guys are thinking of capital things. Wonder if there's any other ventures that could be joined in with other municipalities to help them with capital projects that would benefit Racine County as a whole. Yes, sir.
I mean, I'm new, so I don't know all of the capital assets we own, and I don't know if this is considered a cost cutting or a capital thing, but are there assets we can sell? Is there land we can sell? Are there buildings we can sell?
So selling capital buildings or other capital assets?
Yeah, I know the county building was specifically mentioned. Maybe we can just make it more general too.
I think it's both with capital but one thing I was gonna say when you're talking about the economic development, when we give into the revolving loan fund for economic development with our CEDC, we do put that in our capital budget. So I think that there are ways that we can, including capital contributions towards economic development.
To your point though, just so you are aware, there are some, when things get to their, the end of their useful life, I know for sure, like the sheriff's pretty good at selling their old vehicles, and that comes back into a revenue fund to help purchase new capital or other assets. There's other areas that do that too as well. So it is being done to a certain extent right now. Not that I know of, like a large buildings or parks that I can think of. I haven't been here very long though, only about 5 years. I know we've gotten some parks, but yes, sir.
So what we do with the sheriff's department is every 5 years, you roll all the squads out,
Do.
you know, minus accidents or other things. So we should have that with other items that are smaller than $60,000, $70,000 squad cars though.
Okay, good.
Same thing, you know, these desks are fine. 20 years from now, they're not gonna be fine because we've got 20 years of use on them.
So maybe,
A capital expenditure replacement program policy.
Okay.
So you're not surprised when Hope walks in and says, I need 100 chairs next year because, you know, these are 6, 8 years old and they're shot, you know. Then you don't have to have 100 chairs every year. You know, if you do 100 chairs over 5 years, you're replacing 20 every year.
so you're thinking about
So
maybe,
capital replacement
yeah,
policy or program.
yeah, it's good. Well, there's fingers pointing over there, then over here.
I can be very quick. How long is yours?
Yeah, I agree with,
That's a personal question.
That
I
didn't
agree.
get recorded, did it? Oh, boy. All right. Not long enough,
I
I
agree
guess.
with
but-
Okay.
Chairman Kramer.
Okay, are we good?
Yeah.
Are we?
Go
Okay,
ahead.
okay, just real quick. I'm just jumping in, sorry. For our cultural identity and our identity, just more of a capital improvement plan or investment into our museum, just for modern updates, accessibility, things along that lines.
This is a small one, but the county executive and I have already spoken about this. The bones of the famous racehorse JIC are available for some kind of display, and why not use that as a kind of a tourist attraction or and we could facilitate that, and it wouldn't, I don't think it would cost a lot, but it'd be pretty cool. That racehorse was probably, I think it's the only horse in the world that has won 2 championships in 2 different divisions.
So Supervisor Miller, where would you like us to place that?
We would, yeah, that's a tourism issue, but you mean, where would this go?
Yeah, and categorize.
oh.
Help me with that.
Well, it's a capital, it would be a capital expenditure to create like a memorial for this thing. And it would, when you said anything over $5,000, this is not a huge, this isn't $1 million thing. It's it's probably a low budget, but it would be pretty cool.
Memorial specifically, what was that for again?
JIC, the racehorse.
JIC, the Racehorse Memorial. Got it. Thank you. Nothing is too big or too little.
I was just going to add on to Chairman Kramer's comment about the capital plan.
Yeah.
We have one in the city of Burlington. I presume we had one in the county already, but we implemented one in the city of Burlington about 10 years ago. We inventoried every asset we have and the expected life of it. So then, you know, every single thing down to, you know, desks, roofs, HVAC equipment, so that it's not a surprise.
That sounds really, really good. I can't, yes.
So I can expand on that. One of the things I've tasked Travis with is to go through our facilities and start getting an inventory of exactly what you're talking about so that we can get a picture of what needs repair down the road, future, you know, the future. To your point, Tom, tables, what's the lifespan on our assets? Where are we at? HVAC, so that's in motion. That's been tasked to come
Right, we
So-
can start now. Everything we're buying this year can go on the list again for whatever, 30
Right.
years from now or 5 years from now, whatever the useful
That's-
life of that thing
That's,
is.
that's the low hanging fruit, right? The harder
Right.
to get to is the buildings that are already here, so.
Right,
But
how old
that's-
is the roof and how much is
right.
left, and,
So that's all in motion.
yeah, that would be great to avoid those surprises.
Good. Supervisor Horace?
Yes. In my, my never-ending desire to consider revenue opportunities and the way to bring money into the county, I wonder if we would capitalize or consider capitalizing a marketing campaign or an identity campaign. And I don't know if one's in play right now or not, but it would be a way to try to help promote Racine, because remember, we just passed the sales tax levy not too long ago, and the more people we can get to come this way, the more revenue gets generated this way, plus everything else we're talking about tonight. So
Yeah.
if you were going to use a company to develop or be a part of the development of a marketing campaign, my sense is that could probably be considered capitalized, because I know the dollar amount would go over.
I do not think it would be a capital project. It'd be more operational, I believe.
Wouldn't turn into an app. Yeah, you could go. But we're, it's
The boss says you can do it, so.
Yeah, I kind of sensed, I've done it before. That's why I anticipated we could, but I'm, again, municipality, public entity, I wasn't sure, but I thought we might be able to.
similar to like funding for an architect.
Yeah, exactly. Just one to put on the board.
Thank
Can
you.
we technically just almost kind of do that with the whole Discover Wisconsin package? So are you talking something separate on top of that?
I would, yeah, because I saw the one with, Discover Wisconsin being more generated for the state as opposed to something more, specifically identified to Racine County.
No.
Just our backyard.
No, it's, I mean, we're paying a ton of money for it, so it should be exclusive to Racine County.
I can't answer that if that's,
They are, so.
so it specifically identifies Racine County as a place to work, play and live.
We're forgetting that for those who are going to hear this later, they won't hear anything that's not on the mic.
Thanks, Supervisor Miller.
Thank you.
So one of the things that's in process there is we had our initial meeting with the Discover Wisconsin people. And right now we're tasked with going municipality by municipality in Racine County here to find out, what are you proud of? Eating places, historical places, that type of thing. So we can start developing a marketing plan around those types of things here in Racine County, Chances in Rochester, that's a landmark place. Our park system is of interest, the Cliffside Campground. So there's all kinds of things, but right now we're going directly to the municipalities to talk to them. What are you proud of in your area? So, and it is specific to Racine County.
Okay, thank you.
Just for the record, we are using operational dollars for that, so. I am not contradicting anybody. I was not contradicting anybody. I was just stating a fact. Just stating a fact. All right. Yes, sir.
This kind of potentially can go into both the priorities for capital and cost cutting ideas. And I'm going to say any type of technology that can help, potentially enhance and help criminal justice in the courts, which, has the largest budget. I mean, if there's any type of technology that can streamline some of their jobs, it's probably not good for me to say this, but I guess the word is make them more productive, potentially. And in time, that can help go to cost cutting. I would say any type of technology or gadget or widget that can help any of our different areas, reduce cost, but there's going to be an investment in capital to get that also.
Right, so we can call that investment in efficiency technology, perhaps. Think of a better name for it, but maybe when we think about it some more a little bit later. So with like, but you're not talking about like drones for public safety or cameras or stuff like that.
Wide open, blinders off, any and all of the above.
Okay.
So computer, I know there's computer driven technology that I use the number, and I don't know if this is true, but you know, 90% of the things that are do wrong or criminal activity comes from a small group of people. I think they know. So I don't, if it make, whatever it makes sense where we can, you know, using technology for efficiencies, basically, in any and all areas.
Or to make them more effective at their jobs, as
Yeah.
far as like,
With the help of that.
okay.
With the help of technology.
Excellent.
And we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I mean, there's
Yeah.
there's communities around the country and around the world that are doing some of those things.
Thank you.
And there was, I don't want to ramble too much, but some of the stuff that's been talked about earlier, I mean, we definitely need economic development, both, you know, residential, or we need residential and commercial development, which will drive, you know, some of the tax levy, which will drive home build or, you know, housing. But we also need, you know, workforce education. We need an educated workforce to bring that economic development. So there's, you know, we're hitting a lot of good points here.
Thank you.
So I want to jump back to some of the attractions. No, I think that the Discover Wisconsin program that we have going is something that people have to go look for. Am I correct? It's not going to be in their faces, they're driving down the road or, you know, something that's easily seeable, but they have to go to the site to look for it.
I mean, I guess sort of, but they do have, and they presented the full portfolio of like digital shorts, the longer episodes, the social media marketing. So some of it's very intentional and more outward facing and pushing out to engage. And then some of it is, you know, having to drive to their actual site.
Okay.
But I do think that you're right, Supervisor Hurth, there's something a little bit more than what Discover Wisconsin would do. You're saying to like kind of improve our brand and identity. And I think that's very specific, at least from the way presented, to tourism with a touch of economic development. So I think the concept is.
So my thought on that for capital is like better, more updated signage.
Okay.
So that when people are coming down the highway or coming in on 20 or, you know, that they're going to see, hey, what does Racine County have to offer? And going west, going east, different signage and what's out here.
It's like marketing signage.
Yeah.
Updated marketing signage. Thank you. So I think we have some great ideas on capital. Should we move ahead to cost cutting ideas, or is there anything else on capital that people would like to share? Yes, sir.
If I could just add to Supervisor Rand's idea, I agree. I think especially since the criminal justice system currently uses the largest percentage of the levy, any technologies we can use to make them more efficient would be good. For example, license plate readers, I think the technology, the cost has come down a lot and they can help a lot. Whether they're, you know, on squads or they're at fixed intersections that might be on a county road, it helps them identify cars that are through there and can store that information. The criminal justice system is very document and paper intensive, and I don't know if there's any technologies with, you know, scanning those in or AI to make that part more efficient. But those would be some examples that might help use the existing human resources more effectively to use what they're hired for, which is more the professional judgment and skill.
It's good. Can we, for a cost cutting idea, can we have paper reduction on that? I mean, I heard paper reduction. I know there's a lot more to it than that, but
Yeah, all these,
yeah.
for me, kind of blend together. So yeah, I mean, if we want to launch into cost cutting now, we certainly can, or we can.
Only if everyone's ready to move on. All right, no objections. Moving on to cost cutting ideas. Fun part, right? So number one on the list, if it's okay, maybe an initiative to eliminate use of paper, minimize use of paper, move to electronic documentation, where we can. I mean, I kind of heard that. I don't want to put words in
Sure,
your
yeah,
mouth.
I have no idea what they're doing now.
I don't,
Countywide, I don't know what we're doing now in terms of paper or like electronic signatures, those kinds of things, but
Mm.
lots of other entities use it to process,
paper reduction initiative.
real estate transactions, auto loans.
Yep, absolutely. I think I saw Supervisor Rossi's hand. Yes, sir.
Thank you. First, I would like to just, my chance was a little bit eclipsed, so I'll follow up on that. I'd like to echo the sentiments of Supervisor Wishow about roads. Right now, we're on a 50-year paving cycle. What that means is the average road gets after 50 years, then it's repaved or replaced. The average life cycle of a road is 25 years. We talk about economic development. When you're sitting at the table with some of these larger developers, one of the things they want to know is what are the condition of the roads, access to my facility. I think that's a very important item. And I'd like to stress it a little bit more because take the analogy of a house, and we'll say that the roof of the house is your road. You don't talk about putting on a mother-in-law suite or start replacing windows when your roof is in bad condition. I think we need to focus on a roof right now. I think we should be putting more money towards roads. I just wanted to echo that. Moving on then to cost-saving items. A 5-year capital plan, we talked about seeing a 3-year capital plan. I know this isn't necessarily hard cost saving, but I just wanted to touch on that since it was talked about. I'd like to see a 5-year capital plan instead of a 3-year.
We can add that to the capital list as well.
Okay. Debt service plan, which reflects the 5-year capital plan and current spending.
So a 5-year capital plan tied in with
And then the debt service.
debt service like schedule as
Yeah.
far as.
So then basically the repayment plan, because with the capital plan, if you plan to bond it, whatnot, then
So you'd like to see that in the budget book? There are some things that kind of touch on that. I think the chart, the graph that you is your brainchild. I think that is one of the things that are in there. But
basically the exact same thing as Kenosha has. You'll see that they have
Okay.
their capital plan. They forecast their debt too for the forecasted capital.
okay, so like Kenosha.
Mhm.
All right.
Continuing on,
That's
this will be actually a
schedule,
cost
like Kenosha.
reduction item
Underneath.
specifically. Program evaluations, I'd like to see, maybe we do this on some level, but maybe then just explain it to me, but baselining, benchmarking programs to determine return on investment. Now, I know that's a very complicated one, there's programs that honestly I'm not even aware of at this point, but I'd like to start talking about that. How do we evaluate programs to make sure they're as efficient as they should be hitting their marks?
Okay. So can we stop there just for 1 second to make sure we get it down right? Is it enough to say program evaluation?
I'd say program evaluation is enough.
Okay.
And that's why the ROI is not so clear. It's contrived. So then there's some interpretation as to, what is the return? Grant, see, this falls along the same lines. It's more of it's a form of program evaluation. Grant evaluations are grants hitting their marks. So I guess you could just say grant evaluation.
Okay.
And really what that is then is to make sure that the anticipated costs that a grant is supposed to cover are
I see.
covered.
Okay.
Forecast, we went over that. Oh, forecast. Not necessarily any of these items, but since we've kind of opened it up a little bit, forecast for expenses, operational expenses then for the next 3 years. We talked about that at budget time too. That was one of my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
And this is purely a cost. I mean, implementation of AI to reduce staff where possible.
Okay.
A lot of automation that can take away a lot of clerical work, a lot of day-to-day chugging. But so you see that most other companies are doing that right now. It's just for companies that are rolling it out, the 100+ companies,
automation.
you're seeing a 20% reduction in clerical staff. Just the implementation of certain AIs. And then following up with that, then it would be staff reductions through attrition, targeting less critical roles or roles to be replaced by AI.
So would staff reduction by attrition be separate? Like you'd like
You
to
can
see
put a
that?
blip under it and we can kind of tie the two together, kind of like that.
What if we keep them separate? Because I think they're two different things.
That'd be fine.
Okay. staff reduction through attrition. Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I know program evaluation has been talked about and we're obviously talking about like a 3 to 5 year capital project as well. Or facilities, study, but you know, what about like existing county assets? Like, for example, the pool, like, are we turning a profit on the pool? Or are we not? If we're not turning a profit, then let's dump it. So, you know, are we? We are not? Okay. All right. So there's your answer.
So to read. So how would we put that on there as a cost reduction? Help us to get a suitable label for that.
Sure. What was that? Yeah, I guess an ROI evaluation that Supervisor Orth mentioned. I don't know if that would, I think it would fall underneath that, but again, if we're not, if we're keeping it just for the sake of keeping it and it's not generating any revenue for us, then.
So for any business type program or asset,
yeah,
you would like to see an ROI evaluation to make sure it's profitable. If not,
yeah. Thank
it.
you. I appreciate that.
Got it. Evaluation for business type programs, assets.
You may bring this up, but consolidation of services. Sorry. Fire EMS might be something we should look at. I know a lot of municipalities are up in the air if they want to explore that option or not, but it might be worth examining further.
So for the county, would that be a reduction of costs or additional costs?
Well, I think it would probably be an additional cost, so this probably wouldn't fit underneath here, but
it could go under operations though.
Yeah, it might be suited more for operations as opposed to cost cutting ideas, but I mean, yeah, so let's keep it under that.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Cost cutting ideas, Supervisor, I saw his hand first. Is that okay?
That's fine. Yeah.
Chairman Kramer, you can
Go ahead, Chairman.
Well, with consolidation, there's a big discussion up at the state with the innovative grant, where in theory you can save money by taking Racine County's Parks Department, Kenosha County's Parks Department, and make it a Racine County, Kenosha County Parks Department. Less staff, less equipment duplication. Something that needs to be explored is consolidated services that way.
Just for parks?
Well, anything. I mean, right now we've got a consortium with Racine, Kenosha County and Human Services that was mandated by the state.
Okay.
You know, but whether it's Walworth County, Kenosha County, or, you know, or being a leader in the consortium, like the buying groups, that ultimately is a revenue stream, but it reduces our costs. You know, we got more money.
Do you think consolidation of services captures that all?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then also, you know, the evaluations of programs, you know, return of investment, not so much an investment, that's a term in business, but in public service or anything. Okay. So you have program A that hits 100 people. That's what I was going back to. And there's program B that hits 1,000 people and they have the same costs. It's a pretty easy choice. You know, if you have to reduce cost, which ones you're going to, you know, get rid of. So whether the benchmark, and that's something that each individual program needs to have, but I would say that that's a reduction of costs, you know, being as much, you know, getting rid of the inefficient programs or the more inefficient programs. You know, if you have to make a determination.
Can we say program evaluation
for efficiency
to terminate underperforming programs?
Right. Because then, you know, when you start a program, you you have
Yeah.
an idea
Yeah.
of what you're gonna do.
This makes it more
It-
clear. So when we're,
Right.
Make
I
it
mean, if, back 8 years ago, 10 years ago, we were gonna have so many people that didn't have high school diplomas
yeah.
get a GED. And there was a number out here we thought we were gonna hit.
Mhm.
Okay, so, and I don't know if we hit it or not.
So can I ask you a question real quick?
Sure.
So if we're going to terminate, while people are thinking about other things, if we're going to terminate underperforming programs, does that mean relative to programs are performing better? Does that mean we shift funds to those programs are performing better, as far as serving a greater population? Like, or would you just stop
We're
the
reducing
money?
costs right here, right?
Yeah. I'm just,
So I agree. That's one way of fixing it, is maybe take some of the money from a performing cost.
Yeah.
It's something that's well-known and out there. I mean, sometimes programs don't fly because we don't tell them about it. We don't hit the right people,
right.
Or we may not have a population that needs that.
Mm.
But I'm talking about
Yeah.
a program that is underperforming in
Right.
that we're not hitting enough people.
Mm.
And per capita, we're spending too much on it. Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe there's ways to fix that.
Mm.
Or
Right.
maybe sometimes we just have to say we can't do that.
Okay.
It's the same thing with, local share of mandates. The state will give us some funding to run some programs and we have to match.
Right.
Or we have to, and then we get the job, hope it's the job of figuring out how to spend it, how to do it under those budgetary parameters.
Okay. Good. Hand up over here. Yes, sir, Supervisor.
Yeah, I think I remember during the sales tax discussion, there was talk of a need
There
maybe
you go.
for an external audit.
I mean, to
I don't know
begin
if
with.
that's something we need to do.
External audits.
Yeah, have an external audit of the county. Not just with the financials, but also maybe the practices, operational practices, to get an outside opinion.
To that point,
Oh.
Supervisor, that's the Wisconsin Policy Forum that the county executive was talking about earlier. We've entered into contract with them. They're starting now.
Okay. Then let's make it a priority.
We can still put it on here though, because it's just saying that you support that. It's a good idea. You'd like to do more of it. So external audit of,
Learning about the 800 retirees for the first time is kind of concerning to me. It sounds like we have almost as many people, in the medical plan that are not working for the county anymore as are actively working for the county. So I don't know if there's anything we can do about trying to control costs. And since they're retirees, I'm assuming they're in the highest care phase of their life relative to maybe some younger active employees. So I don't know if there's different plan designs we can do to encourage that, or different ways we can structure wellness or something to try to reduce some of those costs.
shifting costs
Just evaluating
for retiree health insurance in particular.
evaluating that, I guess,
Um,
because it seems like the plan design should not
health insurance.
needs to focus almost as much on on the retiree base as it does the active employee base, because they're almost half of the population receiving care.
So how does
So we
health-
can have all the wellness benefits we want for active employees and
Yeah.
encourage them to join the gym and maybe, encourage them to buy running shoes, but that doesn't really control our costs if, for the 67, 80-year-old retirees that are not working for the county anymore.
So yeah, retiree health insurance redesigned to reduce costs. That.
I'm not going to prescribe what the plan is, but just something.
I mean, that's what
I don't
that's
think
what
we
I'm
just need
hearing
to
though.
communicate to them. I don't know. Do we send
Like-
them like a regular newsletter or something?
Yeah. So.
Do they get a gym membership discount? I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what it
Sarah
is.
still here?
Comment on it.
Okay, so. No, we have taken initiatives and they're on one of the most economical retiree plans in the whole country right now. But
That's
it
great.
still merits
Yeah.
looking at, but when we switched, the retirees were very cooperative, and I know they meet regularly and do some of the things that Supervisor Presker is talking about. but everything can be looked at.
Yeah, I think that would be something that we could bring back to them during those retiree sessions to have like that as a component, bringing in the wellness and other incentives.
Yeah, I just don't know. For a lot of people, once they don't work for an employer anymore, they don't have a lot of contact really with that anymore. So.
Yeah, and that's true for us too, but there's a small and kind of mighty group that helps to advocate for the retirees. So it'd be a good venue for that.
Thanks. And then
Do we do cash in lieu for current, no, employees? Like pay them out a certain, you know what cash in lieu is?
Like if they don't take the insurance,
Yeah.
we do not currently, no.
Have we ever thought about that, or do you think it's too?
You export it, right? Yeah. Yeah, so for those who didn't hear on the microphone, we have talked about it and we have our brokers and our actuaries, like we come to them with a menu of service and then they run those numbers for us. Last year, we made quite a few changes to the health insurance, including an ER copay and some other stuff like that. So we've been thoughtful about rolling out changes to the plan so it doesn't upset everybody all in one year. But we'll definitely add that to the list.
And last, I'd just be curious to, I guess, audit and see, all the payments that are going out of the county and are they going to the intended purpose? So I guess if we're paying premiums for retirees, are those retirees still alive? If we're sending out child support payments, is that person still, what, an obligate, under 18 or?
So how would we, I hear what you're saying.
Just audit
Help
of
me.
all county payments, I guess, if we're sending money through the revolving loan program, like is that project actually getting done? I know our CEDC manages a lot of that specifically, but
Yeah.
I don't know all the things we send money out to, so I can't.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
So when Act 10 and 10 came in 2000, whatever, 10, 11, before that, we had unions. And the union, under the union, you had a step that you'd work your way up. It's very easy to budget because you knew that you've been here 5 years, you have a positive review, you're gonna get to the 6th step, the 7th step, so you could forecast out. So do we need to take a look at how, and you started at a base rate. Now it's more a range. Do we need to review that, how we determine merits? Because when Act 10 came in, and this is why I'm asking, we had to recertify the unions, and a lot of times most of the unions didn't get recertified across the state. And then you had to come up with a system like quick, because you had to keep going, time keeps going on. So, and I wasn't involved in any of that at the county level, but I don't know if anybody in this room was actually, but is it time to review that, how we hire, merit, and are we, is that a good system? Could we save costs if we review that and change certain things that we do? I don't know.
So reevaluate employees' performance evaluations. how
And
we do them.
review and merit and how they, the starting pay.
So reevaluate employee performance evaluations. That feed directly into like their wage increase.
Right, and I mean, because when we used to be under the contract system, and it's still the same with the sheriff's department, you get 3, 3, and 3, or 2, 2, and 2, or 2.5, 2.5, and then everything just went up like this, and then your merits kind of went up like this, so you had a very easy way to schedule.
But
Or
consider return to step increases, just so.
yeah,
captures more.
change, check and see if that's a possibility.
Mr. Dunn.
Thank you. Just a note that, you know, the pool on Ohio, it goes back to the amenities that we provide the general public. And most amenities do not make money. It's an added benefit to the, did I say employees, but I meant to the residents of Racine County. These are amenities that draw people here and they very rarely make money. No, I don't want to close the pool. Okay, first of all. Secondly, the continued review of the health insurance of the employees. I'm confident that is done on an annual basis, but there are different formulas that can be used, such as charging a higher deductible with a lower premium that may save the county money. I know that's done annually, but I would like to make sure that we continue to do that. And just as a note, I was a big advocate, and I still am, of hiring individuals for the county on a full-time basis, because I have found that the county will retain those employees for a longer period of time instead of hiring contracted services. But things have changed. I don't know if there's any financial benefit to go back to contracted services for some positions compared to full-time employees. I think it's something we just should consider and look at. So twofold. Okay, thank you.
So we have health insurance costs consider moving to more employees at high deductible health plan. And then maybe an evaluation of whether we should use more contracted employees versus full-time county employees.
Yeah, and again, I mean, you know, there is a cost for the contracted services that, you know, in the past has been very inflated. Now, that may have come down. I don't know. It's something that we might want to look at as we go forward and people leave for a position and go to a different county. You know, maybe we might want to take a look at that.
I know there is a RFP going out soon for contracted services. So that will definitely come up in that
Thank you.
conversation. Yes, sir. Kramer.
Yes, and another thing that we should look at cost savings is overtime. Now, I'm not talking about when we're snow plowing out there and you gotta have somebody out there 12, 16 hours. I'm talking about operational overtime that's not public safety related. You know,
I don't know how much of that we have, to be honest with you, but.
how about, but public safety outside in the public versus public safety in the jail, in the courthouse.
I see.
So when you pay somebody overtime to do that job, maybe at a certain point, there's a tipping scale where you just hire another body, you know? Or, you know, in some of these jobs, maybe you can contract with a company to do not so much jail work, but court work. You know, versus, you know,
Thank you.
and maybe it's cheaper to keep our own person, but if you're paying them overtime, there's a tipping scale, like I said, where add staff, you know, then, you know, you get, you know, you may be able to cut your overtime. You know.
Thank you. So I think we're right about at time for this category. Are there any last minute? Yes, sir.
So Tom, just want to address Tom's comments. We think alike, because guess what I got today? My first overtime report across the county. And I'll be addressing that with all the department managers directly about, let's start watching our overtime. Let's get this in check. So I just got it this afternoon. And I will be looking at that, I think, 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, I think I'm looking at it. So.
I just wanted to add on there, just looking at our levy percentages in general, like redoing it. The how we have the 70% and 30% for, we need to look at that as a whole.
So
We need
that'd
to
be
relook at all that.
Operations or services,
It's not gonna cost.
be one of those things.
It would actually go on both. How we got things, how we're allocating things. Anyway.
All right, thank you. I think there's, yes.
Huh?
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe low hanging fruit, maybe we do it, maybe we don't, but developed a shared training program with other counties. I know it would take a little bit more to orchestrate, but this is across the board, across all departments, all training.
Thank you. Last call?
My thought was on some of the security, but then, I mean, you go into the courthouse and there's 3 guys sitting there so you can put your purse on a belt. But if something happens, I understand security needs to be there. But sometimes when you go in, you look at that, and you go, why are there 3 guys here? So that's why I was.
Thank you. So I think we're about at time. So what we'd like to do now is take a break. While you guys take a 5-minute break, we'll, sorry. We have to vote first, and then we'll take a break and tabulate things. So you've been holding those stickers. Again, just to remind you guys, for each category, just 3 stickers, at least 3 stickers. Then you have 2 bonus stickers at the end. So, and as soon as, no stuffing the ballot. So, so you should have just got, so we were generous. You should have just got 1, okay, 1 of these. So you should fill out 1 of these, 3 per category. Any way you want to put them, just so you know, you can put more than 1 dot or sticker per line if you want to. Use them any way you want to on each category. Thank you.
What else? Yeah, definitely.
So we'll go ahead and start at the beginning, services. As you guys you can probably pretty much tell from the stickers, but it's a little bit of a kaleidoscope up here. So the top focusers were paving roads, economic development, net new construction, public safety services. This is all under the services category. And then there was like a four-way tie with the same amount of votes for the family services, homeless services, K-12 pipeline, especially focusing on trade fields, and affordable housing. So those were the top vote getters and services. And as Gwen said, we're gonna kind of compile everything together a little cleaner and disseminate out to the whole full board, probably within a couple weeks or so. So any thoughts on any of these things? Any brief thoughts on any of these things? All right. If not, we'll move on to the next category, or the closest one to me, which is in the right order, operations. Top vote getters here, cybersecurity, human capital management, public safety operations, 3-year operations forecast. And then there were 2 tied as well with 4 votes. That was mental health operations, operational needs, and family operations, youth summer jobs. Any other thoughts about these things? Right. Moving right along then to our capital category. The top vote getters by far, roads, parks, increased funding, upgrade campgrounds, parks, specifically Cliffside Park was given as example, capital replacement policy schedule, and investment in technology to make the workforce more effective and efficient, and road paving plans. So,
And that was more of like a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan, and make sure that I think the comment was taking the amount of roads that you have during the year or you have under your control, dividing it by each year and investing that much each year in it.
so that was under the capital category. Any other thoughts on? Yes, sir.
On the investment in technology, not necessarily.
Sorry, Supervisor, can you use your microphone?
The investment in technology isn't specifically to potentially reduce staffing. It's more to maybe not need to add staffing, but also any type of technology that may help reduce cost in any areas.
Yes.
So it's kind of twofold that.
Yeah, we'll flesh that out a little more, in the efficiency aspect of it.
Yeah, for instance, one thing that the county executive wanted me to mention if it came up is for the 3-year operations forecast or 5-year operations forecast, we know that it came up last year with the budget. Byron and I have done some demos with some software that would be technology, where you input the data, put some scenarios around it. What if our population boomed? What if our population decreased? They can do a lot of that kind of stuff. That would be an increase in technology, which could lead to the priority over here, which could then lead to cost reductions.
That, you can't see, that's too small, but that's why I didn't write. So, but I did jot a note down just to make sure we didn't miss that. Okay. In our last category, cost reduction, we have program evaluations for underperforming programs, consolidation of services, review employee evaluation, a process, how we do, whether we should do step increases or some other method. Overtime evaluation for staffing levels. And this was in particular to see if it would be advantageous to hire another employee versus paying out additional overtime. And then the last one was to evaluate building needs.
Specifically security, but then also, I think that could be like installing LED lighting, which can then save on energy, like that kind of stuff.
All right. Any additional thoughts on cost reduction?
Supervisor Spencer, did you have?
So my question was gonna be, the ones that got 1 dot or no dots, are you taking them off the table like completely, or are they still gonna hang around for like low hanging fruit type ideas?
No, they're not going to be taken away. All the feedback that was given, we're going to hang on to it. So what we're going to do going forward, we're basically going to put this in, either spreadsheet or Word document, okay? And then once we get it in there, we're going to just try to see how the information flows, okay? From category to category to see where things overlap, because that would indicate there's a stronger sense of community that wants to move in that direction, okay? So we'll take this information, maybe we'll leverage some AI, a little bit of AI to come up with a just kind of an analysis of what we have. And then we'll create a report that hopefully is very useful, and we'll get it out to you guys. But we're not going to get rid of any of the feedback that we received today.
Right, and I don't want to speak for the county executive, but I think that especially in your first year in preparing a budget and presenting it to the board, hearing that roads and cybersecurity and affordable housing are priorities will help him direct department heads to say, IT director, having stepped out, cybersecurity is their focus. Let's make sure we're focusing in on that area.
Okay, so I thought of one more thing that I was working on with Jonathan a little bit, and it could get written down as both cost reduction and capital, but that's, we talked about like putting solar panels on top of like new Corey Lake Park building. So you have a little bit of capital up front and then long-term savings. And I think that should be on there, even though it's not gonna get any dots.
All right, Jody, that's a freebie.
It goes into evaluating business building needs, because that could reduce energy needs in that building. Corporation Counsel?
Yeah, thank you, Gwen. Hoping just for a little bit of clarification on the cost reduction. One of the items that seemed to score well here is the consolidation of services, and at least just so I understand it, is that consolidation of services to realize savings for the county? So within county government departments cooperating and consolidating services within county governance, or is that also envisioning savings for municipalities by the county consolidating services with those municipalities? Because that may very well be a cost increase for the county, but realizing savings for municipalities. Is it both of those?
It could be both. I mean, obviously, if we consolidated fire and rescue under a county umbrella, it'd be a cost, and there's numerous ways we could do that on the backside so that we could offset the cost, which we're not going to talk about tonight. But what I'm thinking is, and this is the innovative fund that they always talk about when I talk about giving the town or the county or anybody more money. Why don't you use the innovative fund and work with Kenosha or Milwaukee? And not necessarily are you going to save 10%, but where a lot of this savings would come in is somewhere down the future. You may not need 2 mowers that like both counties don't need the same piece of equipment. Maybe we have one of something. You save that extra down the road in a capital expenditure 5 or 10 years down the road. It's the same thing when I talk about consolidation of fire departments in the western part. It's $1 million fire truck. Everybody has to buy $1 million fire truck or 2. Well, maybe we don't need 8 fire trucks in Waterford. Maybe we need 6 or 5. Then we're going to save that $3 million somewhere down the line that we're not replacing these trucks with. That's what I'm saying. That's just an example. Explore the opportunities, and you may not find any, or you may not find a willing partner.
Or it's very preliminary, but I know we've had some initial discussions about a correctional arm of health or mental health services for the juvenile detention and for the jail instead of contracting out and having real no control over the contract price. If we did it in-house, we could realize some savings there. Yep. Yes.
Turn this thing off. Okay, the courts, criminal justice and, courts take up 78% of the, general levy. And, I know you're probably getting tired of hearing me saying it, but I tell you, if the family is strong and not perfect, if the family is strong, a lot of this cost savings can go toward, okay, county jails, the crime, human services, the sheriff's office. And I'm not saying cut them. But what I'm saying is that if the family is strengthened, everything else will fall into place. Everything else will fall into place.
So like prevention before it gets to reaction, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah, understood.
Absolutely. So, yeah.
Any other comments or questions about the next step? Okay.
Otherwise, I think, I think it's been a really good night. I've enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys think it's been helpful and beneficial. You know, the proof will be what we do with this, but I think you'll see that we do use this to inform the decisions going forward. And, you know, look, and obviously you guys are in oversight roles, so there's that accountability aspect too. And we appreciate that and respect that. So we look forward to that as well. I think I'd be remiss if I didn't ask the county executive if he has any parting comments as we close out.
Thanks, Byron. So again, this is just the start of a process, right? And it's the process that I'm going through for the first time. And one of the things that I wanted to do was, after watching the latter half of last year, was involve this body in these types of conversations, both individually and as a group. So I'd like to throw out there as well, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to call me directly and we'll talk about them. I might not have the answers. I might not have the answers you want to hear. It's interesting because a lot of the things you talked about tonight are things that we're starting to look at, or probably have been looked at internally, but we're putting a light on them even more so. So I appreciate the input and the support, and I look forward to the process continuing to evolve as we move forward. So thank you very much for this. Appreciate it. Yep. Just Ralph's fine.
Okay, that would help, huh? I want to thank you and the staff for this endeavor. It was great. And I tell you, about 30 years on the board, I tell you, I really appreciate this. Not that we didn't have it before, but this was rolled out real nice and getting us involved right at the beginning. And I give you much credit for that, you and the staff. Great job.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a great night, everybody. Thank you.